It is I, Christian von Carmian, taking off my cloak after a long day of balance patch videos. The Adeptus Sororitas and Deathwatch videos are already out on the YouTube channel. But what about that third faction I'm known for talking about? What are all the changes made to the Genestealer Cult in the June 2025 Balance Dataslate? And click subscribe before we both forget, and I will get into it. We have a little change to resurgence points, unit point changes, especially affecting the Brothers Auxilia, Final Day, and a little bit on the Outlander Claw. And then, 2 new unit datasheets that we can use. There have been cult ambush changes. I like having this table. You can tweak ever so slightly one of the cult ambush numbers so that one of the units gets a buff or a penalty. In this case, the Jackal Bikers and the Pure Strain Genestealers cost 2 resurgence points instead of 3 resurgence points for a unit of 5. It is only the small unit of 5 that is changed. The bigger units remain at 6 resurgence points. This encourages you to use small units of Jackal Bikers and Pure Strain Genestealers. Perfect! Even in the Outlander Claw, I use small units of bikes. And unless I'm combining the Pure Strains into a big buffed meaty claw stack of death with the Patriarch in the Final Day or Biosanctity Brood Surge, I run Pure Strains in units of 5. Getting them back cheaper is better. 2 resurgence points is an important point break number. Previously, the only option for 2 resurgence points was 5 Acolytes. Yes, 5 Metamorphs were there as an option, but they were almost always taken in units of 10. While Jackal Bikers can't deep strike, so they have to arrive from strategic reserves or a cult ambush token near to the board edge, Pure Strains can deep strike. They can advance and charge. If they can come from a cult ambush marker, which is basically rapid ingress in one place, they can run into a small enemy unit or lend their support to a larger charge right away. And as a unit that can deep strike, they can complete missions just as well as Acolytes. Their 4 arms can do the things that the 3 arms of an Acolyte can do as well. Except Pure Strains have 2 wounds and a 5+ invulnerable save. If you need a bit more survivability, the Pure Strains are a better option than the Acolytes. If you need to shoot, obviously you pick the Acolytes with the Hand Flamers. But if their task is just being in a place, completing an action, or something along those lines, the Pure Strain Genestealers are a better choice. The Jackal Bikers are 1 point cheaper per model. They were always competing with Pure Strains. Either you have infiltrating Pure Strains, or for similar points you can have the big scout of the Jackal Bikers. I ended up choosing Pure Strains more because of that 5 points difference. Even in the Outlander Claw detachment, I would include some Pure Strains. I think 5 of each kind is more warranted instead of 2 units of 5 Pure Strains. Now, I'm still a Pure Strain lover, but I'm far more likely to consider the big scout of the Jackal Bikers now that the units cost exactly the same. That was our only points change. There was no other change to any of the other units that needed the change. The Benefictors didn't go down in points and they didn't get their unit rule fixed. Their invulnerable save is still an improvement of 1 on the invulnerable save for just that model. That's it. The Nexus and the Icon War didn't have any points changes, nor did their rule to do with cult ambush markers change. We don't really need it. It's not doing much for us. But they remained at their high cost. The Magos did not get a change. They're not great. They could do with a points drop or better rules, maybe the better rules. The Rock Grinder did not go down in points even though they don't compare so well to the Goliath Truck, which is much cheaper. But thankfully, the Ridge Runner did not go up. If you mess with the Ridge Runner's points, you mess with the faction as a whole. There was also no stratagem changes. The Downtrodden rise? No, the Downtrodden will stay downtrodden because I'm not spending 2 command points. I expected there wouldn't be any change. Though a really bad choice, technically you can use all of the Shadow of Iron and Evasive Vanguard type stratagems to keep your cult ambush markers safe. It is like spending 1 command point on rapid ingress, so it can be worth it. Final Day has an advantage in that way. It doesn't have a near useless stratagem to do with cult ambush markers. Before the Final Day detachment, I want to cover the Brothers Auxilia. The Brothers units have had points changes, so this affects the Brothers Auxilia detachment because you will be taking Brothers units in this detachment. The Leman Russ Battle Tank is up by 10 points. This is the one that we take because it has full rerolls to hit against enemies on objectives you don't control, for all of its weapons. It doesn't need any support from officers, voice of command, none of that. It's a great autonomous tank. One that we can use well, since we don't have any support to give it in the Brothers Auxilia. That's a mild inconvenience. 20 Death Corps of Krieg are up 15 points. That is 65 for 10 or 145 for 20. The exact same cost as 20 Neophytes. So I recommend taking 20 Neophytes instead, unless you plan to use Martial Espionage to give your Death Corps of Krieg an extra point of armor penetration. The Neophytes have more guns. The Neophytes can use Resurgence points. The Neophytes can better benefit from characters like the Primus. We don't have officers with voice of command to attach to the Death Corps of Krieg. The voice of command does nothing for them, so it's not worth having officers. Their horses, the Death Riders, now cost the same as Rough Riders. I will continue to prefer the versatility offered by the Rough Riders. It's a good points drop on the Death Riders, I appreciate that. You can use your horse types as either kind of horse. It's the same points now. Your Genestealer looking horsey could be a Rough Rider one day and a Death Rider the next. It's only going to be confusing if you have both kinds on the table, which you shouldn't because I recommend the Rough Riders. The Taurox is up 10 points, and I have no change in opinion on that. The Chimera continues to cost more and have more guns. If you took a Taurox before, continue to take the Taurox. The Brothers Auxilia is not a great detachment, but it's one that can work. I know it is one of the worst detachments in the game, and these points have made it a little bit worse. That is not the correct direction of travel. Thankfully, the rumoured Overwatch change that prevented rerolls to hit rolls when firing Overwatch has not come about. 20 Neophytes with the Primus and Firepoint Commander is a staple in this list. The Primus lets you fully reroll hit rolls, and with the Firepoint Commander, you hit on Overwatch on a 5+. It is almost as good as a regular round of shooting. And thankfully, that combo will stay in the Brothers Auxilia. So now we want to talk about the final day, the other Alliance detachment that we have. The Winged Hive Tyrant is 30 points cheaper. That is okay in final day with the Vanguard Tyrant enhancement. It improves its strength and armor penetration by 1. That costs 25 points and you just saved 30 points by having the unit. As a unit that reduces the cost of command points by 1 on itself or any other Tyranid unit within 12 inches, it can send out the call to avenge itself. You use Avenge the Star Children, it now costs 0 command points. If you haven't already used its ability this battle round, then do so. The Will of the Hive Mind ability is changed to once per battle round you get a free stratagem instead of once per player turn. For the number of Tyranid units we have in the final day detachment and the limited number of stratagems you can use on the Tyranids, this is not much of a problem. If you took the Winged Hive Tyrant before, I expect you will continue to take a Winged Hive Tyrant and rub your hands together with glee at having 30 more points. What we have as new is a unit of Raveners, which I guess are technically not new. There already were Raveners, they already were Vanguard Invaders. What's confusing is the points. On the Tyranid section of the Munitorum Field Manual, we see Tyranid Raveners are 3 for 75 points, or 6 for 150 points. And now we are introduced to a unit of 5 at 125 points. Presumably, when the models come out and the app is updated, then the Codex version of Tyranid Raveners will be overwritten. Until then, I suppose you can use either kind. They have points for each kind. This updated version of Raveners has no Thorax bioweapon and instead has the 4+ armor save as default. You don't get to choose which one, it is the better armor save version, which is the version that most people went for. The Raveners in the Tyranids Codex were very similar to the Von Rhein's Leapers in their attacks. The new Raveners are distinctly different. They have 3 attacks instead of the impressive 7 attacks, hitting on a 3+ at AP -2 and damage 2, instead of 7 attacks, hitting on a 3+ at AP -1 and damage 1. The new version also has Twin Linked and that kills about 5 Marines in combat. You may think that's an improvement, you may not think so. The problem I have is the points, 125 points. 3 Von Ryans are 50 points cheaper. Lictors are half the cost. In the final day detachment, we Genestealer Cult players are less interested in killing the enemy with the Tyranids and more concerned about supporting the Genestealer Cult through the Catalyst rule. Von Ryan's Leapers are cheaper and can infiltrate with pure strain Genestealers and a Patriarch. The Raveners can leave the battle with the ability on their unit datasheet, but any Genestealer Cult or Tyranid unit can do the same in the final day with the Resistance Tunnel stratagem. I still don't much recommend Raveners. If they are your jam and you want to Trigon Tango as a theme, more Broodmind power to you. You will now be able to crunch up enemy units that have 2 wounds. But if you want to focus on the Genestealer Cult side, which is really what you should do in the final day detachment, they are not a great points investment. The Hyperadapted Raveners are another unit, and they are a character, which opens up the option of avenging the Star Children if the Ravener Prime dies. The Hyperadapted Raveners can join a unit of Raveners. I'm assuming this is the 5 Raveners rather than the 3 to 6 Raveners from the Tyranid Codex. But you don't need to add the Hyperadapted Raveners to a unit. They are like an Imperial Guard command squad, a character unit with 1 character model that can join another unit. In this case, Raveners, not Imperial Guard platoon squads. Whether they join a squad of Raveners or not, their weapons have sustained hits 1, and it doesn't matter if the Ravener Prime has died, this stays up. And once per battle round, you can target the unit with Rapid Ingress or Heroic Intervention for 0 command points. It doesn't matter about the Shadow and the Warp on the Ravener Prime, we are Genestealer Cult, we do not use the Shadow and the Warp. The Prime is a little bit different to the other Raveners in their squad. They have 6 wounds, 3 more attacks. One of these Hyperadaptive Raveners has a gun, and their claws are anti-vehicle, anti-monster 5+, with twin-linked rerolls. This is more useful if you end up fighting monsters. This is the only anti-monster weapon available to us. They are kind of cool looking, but at 165 points, compared to other characters like, oh, you can pay 5 points more and have a Hive Tyrant with wings, or for 5 points more, you can have 2 squads of 10 gargoyles which will better support the Genestealer Cult of the final day. This may be a fun unit for the Tyranid players. I think it is less interesting and tempting for the Genestealer Cult players within the final day. Let me know what you think of these Raveners, especially if you play the final day detachment. I will leave the video for the final day up here. That is where it has a lot more advice on the kinds of Tyranid units you should be taking in this detachment. I feel that from this Balance Dataslate, the Genestealer Cult have only improved. There has never been a better time to start collecting Genestealer Cult. Just laying some breadcrumbs. I hope this Balance Dataslate has treated you well. Have a great day of 40k.